And this week in BCW is, I get it
So,
mixed up, but I believe cover letter is the project this week. Is that correct?
yes.
Great. I because I never get anybody from BCW to do one of these go-to trainings. I would really. Uh-oh, Janae's audio went off. I hope I don't have some crazy settings. Can other people hear me?
I can hear you.
I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know. I don't know why, but my computer audio goes on and off every now and then.
Do you repair your permissions like every week?
Do I what?
Have you ever gone to disk utility? Do you see my screen right now? And I'm going in the upper right hand corner and I'm typing disk utility. Don't do it
Okay.
now. Do this. Go to disk utility, then select your hard drive, and then click first aid and click run. Don't do it now because that'll kick you out. And do you save like giant files on your desktop?
I guess so.
Well, one, run disk utility. Two, do not save anything on your desktop. Take everything from your desktop and just throw it in a folder somewhere in your documents and just call that desktop items and file it someplace else. When you put stuff in your root directory, that slows down the computer, and I believe it makes it harder for it to access cache. Also, is your hard drive more than 80% full?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
If your hard drive is more than 80% full, your computer uses about 20% of your hard drive for cache, which is
Yeah.
stuff that it saves and just gets rid of in the background. So instead of spending way too much money on a new hard drive, you need to offload some of your documents, like probably photos and videos, onto an external drive, store them in the cloud, and that will speed. Those are the two easiest things to do that will speed up your computer. There's other stuff that gets more complicated.
Right.
So for BCW, the cover letter, I would really love to go through somebody's cover letter line by line. Every month, I'll get the cover letters in and I'll see stuff that I didn't really want to see. And I'll tell myself, man, I got it wrong. I need to redo the assignment. Let me look at the instructions. And I'm going, well, that's weird. This looks like exactly what I wanted people to do. So there isn't one way to do a cover letter. There is no one way. In the lesson, I give you guys a template, which is sort of a way to do a cover letter, which is sort of filled with tricks, or let's not even call them tricks. Let's call them tips I've learned over the years, especially when you're applying to a job in a very, 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 very competitive market. I've been on the other end of the table where you have to go through the stack of letters, whether it's your cover letter, your query letter, the stack of resumes. And in reality, you have more people submitting than you can actually read. And so if you just go online and you look at any article on, like, for example, there's an article on this website called The Ladders that does so called executive recruiting. And they'll tell you that the average human resources person spends, guess how many seconds looking at a resume?
10
Anybody?
seconds.
Oh wow, I like you. 10 seconds? No, 30 seconds. So I always say, whether it's a demo reel, your personal branding video, your website, you're guaranteed 30 seconds. 30 seconds of undivided attention. However, for those of you who said 10 seconds, like an elevator pitch, which is is an old term for your log line, a person is going to make a first impression in only 7 seconds. And so in 7 seconds, you're going to look at your resume, make a first impression, and for the next 23 seconds of undivided attention, they will look for evidence to support the opinion they already made in 7 seconds. And so the bad news is you only have 7 seconds. That's also the good news. You really only have to hook a person in 7 seconds. It just has to kind of look and feel right. Then the person is like, yeah, this looks like success. And then they'll just look very quickly to find evidence, and then they'll immediately put you in the yes or no pile. So, cover letters. Do I have a volunteer who's already started working on their cover letter that will allow us to go through your letter line by line as a group and provide some tips and suggestions?
I can volunteer as tribute again.
Great. I always know I can count on Janae. So,
Of course.
where is I've been having trouble seeing lately, and I was like, I bet it's time for my eye exam. It is next week.
Oh dear.
Janae, let me move my head. Okay, now I can see you. I'm gonna ask for you to be the presenter. Clear your screen of everything we don't need to see, Unabomber, manifesto, all that stuff, and we're just gonna look at your cover letter together.
Okay. Wait, let me move your face out of the way.
Yeah, I'll have to move it on my end too.
Have to lower that for a second. Okay, so what I'm showing is basically two versions of the same thing.
Okay.
The one on the left, I didn't like very much because not only was it too crowded everywhere else, but there's no 50% whiteness right here. So I just wanted to show you guys that in case anyone was having problems with the templates.
For cover letter, you don't necessarily have to have. This is just me. You don't necessarily have to have 50% whiteness. However, depending on the job and the job level, you may or may not want to go all the way to the bottom of the page. It depends on what the job and the job level is. If it's like a job that requires 28 years experience, one page would not be enough. If it's for a PA job, it doesn't really have to be that long, 50% to 3/4 of a page. You just got to convince them that you're a real person, not just a number. So which letter would you like us to read? They look very similar because I'm scanning them.
I would prefer this one right here.
Okay. So first thing I'm going to ask you to do is zoom in to 200.
Because I was going to say on the side, like depending on the template.
You were going to say what?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, zoom in to 200%.
I was saying definitely.
Okay. I like the letterhead. You got a picture. We know you're a real person. It's not somebody pretending to be a person or a spam letter. Now it's memorable. Even though we've had technology for 50 years now, a lot of people still aren't going to throw their face or an exciting logo on the letter. I see your phone number. I love that. I see the job. That's interesting. You put the job link on there. That's cool. Yeah, I see your website, email. This is great. So I love this letterhead. Chinese. So I have to ask you when you say story editor, because in different industries have story editors, and so before I read the letter, I'm curious. This is a story editor for what?
It's a story editor for their game, Chapters, Interactive Stories.
Okay. Now, out of the people that I have who have microphones, I want to read this letter together. Scroll down so I can see like how many paragraphs there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just call the last one 4 anyways. So, who had a microphone? Richard.
Yes.
Could you read paragraph from the first paragraph?
Okay, just read it all.
And actually, who else? Did I have anybody out? AJ, do you have a hot mic?
I do.
Could you read? I tell you what, Richard, just read the first 2 paragraphs, and AJ read the rest.
Got it.
Dear Crazy Maple Studio, I am applying for your story editor editor job position in Sunnyvale, California, which I found on Indeed.com. As a gamer myself, I see so much potential for chapters, interactive stories as a role-playing game for multi-choices and outcomes. As an editor and creative writer, I want to help you polish your stories for a more enjoyable experience for your consumers. Word
World
building.
and character growth are one of my greatest passions, so I couldn't get enough of Chapter's interactive stories once I started playing it. However, several of your stories have a number of spelling and grammatical errors. I have experience writing my own multi-choice games on Twine, and I'm very articulate with proper grammar and spelling. Furthermore, I have edited Of Fathers and Sons and Daughters, a short international book by Reverend Chance Sr. Attachments include my resume and my writing portfolio. You can contact me anytime via email at jennylevine@gmail.com. Sincerely, Janae R. Levine. Sorry.
Okay. Good job. This is a good letter, but let's dive into this. So,
Yeah,
starting
because
in the
there's a lot that needs work.
starting in the first paragraph, I am applying for story editor job position. Good. Where did you find it? Good. HR person always wants to know where you found it, so they know if it's working. To know if we're prioritizing one place over another, because sometimes you could have a referral from somebody they know, and that can get prioritized than just someone who responded to a generic ad. I'm a gamer myself. That's good. You've pre-qualified yourself, given us some organic information. In the first paragraph-ish, I prefer that you include something that indicates that you've done some research about the company. Interviewers, managers, HR people hate people who have not done their homework. So when you include something about the company, it has to be something unique and specific. You can't say that Maple Studio is awesome because it makes great content. Now that's a form letter. It has to be something unique to the Maple Studio brand, which is either you're already very familiar and you know their work and you can just name drop one or two projects and why they're awesome, or you can just go to their website and sort of reword their mission statement. But you have to indicate that you've pre-qualified who the company is, that you understand what they do, what's the difference between them and their competition, and whether or not you are indeed a match. So you did something risky here that you do have to do, but I'm going to tell you, but not in. You shouldn't do it in your cover letter. World building, character growth, one of my greatest passions, so I couldn't get enough of chapters, interactive stories. That's fine. Several of your stories have a number of spelling and grammatical errors. So that's not a great way to begin a marriage, saying, hey, let's get married. By the way, you suck, take out the trash and do the dishes. So that's never a great way. But however, you're applying for a job as a story editor where you will be looking for grammatical errors and spelling errors. So you actually jumped the gun. So once you went to an interview or you had a phone call, they would have asked you, take a look at our material. What do you think? What would you have done differently? Did you see anything that we've done wrong? And so when you are asked to break down stuff, that's when you would have provided this answer. So this was too early. It's you never want to start on a marriage with FU because if that's the honeymoon, what's the marriage going to be like?
Gotcha.
I have experience writing my own multi-choice games on Twine, and I'm very articulate, a fraud programmer, and spelling. So you don't want to rewrite your resume, but you want evidence. Every time you make a claim, you claim you have experience with Twine. Give me a specific example. Tell me who you did it for. What was the name of the game? Can I see it? Is there a link online? Even if you say I smile, give me evidence. Send me a picture. Send me a link. Give me a testimonial of someone who says you smile. Every little thing you claim must be backed up. And so instead of having 50 claims, you're probably going to have no more than 3 claims because everything has to be backed up. I have to go back to my own letters and redo them now and make sure every claim is backed up. I used to have an accomplishments section in my cover letters, and I removed it because when I went back and I did what I'm telling you guys to do and back everything up with a claim, I said what the claim was. I gave a specific example of where I did it, and I provided an actual link. And when I did that, I no longer needed my accomplishment section because I had already covered it just in the wording. Fathers and daughters. I wanted to hear a little bit more about your history. Why should I believe you could be a story editor at Maple Studio? Have you done this before? Who have you done it for? When did you do it? How good were you? Do you have a testimonial? What proof do you have that you can do this job? The more of that you get in the cover letter, the more chance someone's even going to look at your resume. People actually do read the cover letter. They'll look at the cover letter and pre-qualify you whether or not they should look at the resume. Uh, if you are submitting online to a database, that is a computer is going to be the first point of contact for your cover letter and resume, and that means computer is going to go through it. So in your case, because you have a very stylized letterhead, if the computer read the letter, it might get confused. So with the resume, way back in the Portfolio 1 class, I gave you what was called an ATS-friendly resume format. You should always have 2 versions of your resume and 2 versions of your cover letter. One is for humans, which is pretty, like this. One is for the computer. Typically, if you submit your cover letter and resume to an email address, first point of contact is a human. If it's an email address, you can send your human cover letter and human resume because the human's going to see it and they're going to go, wow, look at this. She looks smart. I bet she can find typos and all the stuff we already have. So that's just a small point. I don't always use the human and ATS friendly cover letter and resume, but if I use one, I try my best with ATS friendly legal formatting to make it as pretty as possible. But if you want to go the extra mile, the real way to get a job is to go the extra mile. It should take you a whole day to apply to one job. You have to go through the job ad. You got to redo your resume with the languaging from the ad. You have to redo your cover letter with the languaging from the ad. You have to directly reference everything in your letter with the languaging from the ad. And it should take you an entire day to do that. And you shouldn't be applying to companies everywhere. You should be applying to the city you want to live in, to the company you want to work for, and it should take you all day to do that submission. That's the real way to get a job. Almost every time I've got something pretty awesome, it was like an all day submission, but it works. It's kind of scary because we live in an online world and it's like apply, 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 but that doesn't really work. Attachments include my resume and my writing portfolio. You can contact me anytime via email at Janae. So yes, so when you include your contact information, um, even though it's on her letterhead on the side, do put it in paragraph format. Because remember, we only got like 7 seconds, 30 seconds tops. There might not be another second left to look down somewhere in the header, the footer, or in her case, the left-hand column. However, you've missed an opportunity here in your last paragraph to use suggestive selling. Instead of saying attachments include my resume and writing portfolio, there's a certain percentage of the population, the way our culture is raised, that replies to tacit commands. If there's a subliminal command, as a matter of fact, when you're running Google ads, you cannot say click this. That is banned on Google ads because there's a certain percentage of the population that does not know that they will comply with commands just without even thinking. So instead of saying attachments include my resume and writing portfolio, you want to say read my resume and portfolio here. That's a tacit command. So I forget what the percentage is. It's like 6% or 16% of the population. So if you get one of those people, so some people are just going to have to read it because you gave them a command, and they'll be like, "Yes, master, read resume and portfolio." So that's just a little trick to give you better odds when you're doing the numbers game. Anybody who's done sales knows it's about numbers, 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 numbers. 1 out of 100 you can be a conversion. So you say you can contact me anytime via. So you don't say you can contact me again. Say contact me at. It don't say. You can say anytime. Contact me anytime at Janae. You don't have to say email. We know that's an email address now. 20 years later, at JanaeLevine@gmail.com. Don't. Now, if you were doing an ad, you'd say contact me now. I wouldn't do that in a cover letter because that might sound too desperate. Just that very soft tacit command. Some people are uncomfortable giving tacit commands. They might sneak in please. I wouldn't. I'm just tricking somebody subliminally here. So, does anybody else have any suggestions or to provide Janae with?
No, I can't think of any.
Okay. Do we have someone else who wants to go through their cover letter?
Oh, and another thing I wanted to add too, because the job application for this asked me to mention certain things, whereas the template that you've given us for an example told us not to mention. Like, I remember in the directions you gave us was don't put your resume in or something, but they were asking for my resume. Or was it writing samples? I forget.
Well, that's a little nuanced. So, you cannot attach a writing sample unless it's requested. That's a legal issue. However, you can say if read samples on my website. That's not the same thing as just sending somebody. If somebody chooses to go to your website, they will. But if it is a company that will not read anything without a release or anything, then they will make the extra step to say request it and ask you to sign something. In this situation, because this is for story editor, you're not going to be in a situation where somebody is going to want to release. That's if you were trying to sell a script. But you can never ever attach anything basically other than like your resume, cover letter, maybe some other stuff. You never send a sample unless requested.
Right.
Some people are just mean. They just get mad if you bombard them with a whole bunch of stuff. That's why I like sending people to the website. In my closing, in every cover letter I do, a lot of times I'll mention what time they can call. They can actually call anytime, but I just don't want to sound desperate, so I create a time for them to call. I always plug my website link in paragraph format. I have it in my header. Your header basically is on the side, but I always put my website link in the portfolio. I'm also a video producer, editor, director. Sometimes I'll have an extra link to my demo reel, or I'll say my demo reels are found on my website. But you want to get that in paragraph format in addition to your header. But you did it as a hyperlink, which is fine if it doesn't get stripped out. Nowadays, most things won't get stripped out. Amber is asking a question. Hold on. What about applying somewhere that requests samples, but the company mentions that the sample becomes their property if they decide? That would be illegal. If the company
I'd be
says
mad if they did that to me.
Yeah, if the company says that, don't even apply. So, from my 5 entertainment law classes in graduate school, you do not have the ability to give someone permission to break the law against you. You don't have that right. You're like, I gave them the right to break the law. No, you don't have that right to give someone permission to commit an illegal act against you. So in the entertainment industry, you've created something original. Some people will ask you to sign a release. The release is not valid in court. What that is, it's to dissuade frivolous lawsuits. So you can sign a release. It's meaningless. Now a release. No, but if they're trying to get you to sign something else, that's a little different. They might be tricking you into sign a contract. But a release doesn't hold up in court because you can't give someone permission to just steal your work. Also, just a fundamental tenet of contractual law is there must be the exchange of legal tender. If you sign a contract and money does not exchange hands, your contract is not valid until money exchanges hands. It used to be like a penny. Some states it's like $1. Now you've probably even heard on the news like Sean Hannity talking about or working with Michael Cohen. Some states might say it has to be $10, but legal tender must exchange hands for any contract to be in force anywhere. So when you're optioning, let's say, a screenplay in Hollywood to a low budget producer, a lot of times I'll option it for $1 because legal tender must exchange. Like I've optioned music, or I've even used music in movies, and I only did $1 a track, and I actually had to write a check for those 10 tracks for $1 each because I needed the contract to be in force. And so you can't give somebody the right to just steal your material. So I wouldn't worry about that. Amber, there's 2 companies where I would have to apply, but I am super leery about them. When I was younger and I was fooling around with acting, I had this little handbook that was called the Junior SAG Actors Handbook. And then the most important thing in the handbook was the 10 golden rules. Rule number 1, they said, which is unbreakable, is if it's too good to be true, it is. Always, 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 always trust your instincts, especially when it comes to the entertainment industry. There's lots of very, very shady people who have no desire to pay you under any circumstances. I know how to draft like contracts for entertainment, and sometimes I'll like tell a producer, okay, I'll tell you what, I can work for without money up front if I'm guaranteed this percentage of the production budget, but I won't even write unless you already have distribution or you already have everything in place to make it. And then when I would put in all these, if thens and if comes, which would guarantee money, they would always say no because the producer never, ever, ever, ever intended to pay me money. A lot of movies I've done contracts, which is called, I put steps in them, where I gave steps to the cast and crew, and at first, actually it was just the cast, and at first my partner was like, oh, no, I'm not giving people all these money, and I was like, no. I said, we're only going to take 10% your tithe, and we're going to divide that up between the talent and the crew. If the film makes $20,000 net, if the producer's net is $20,000, if the producer's net is $100,000, if the producer's net is $500,000, if the producer's net is $1 million, this is what you get paid. And the star had like 2 points. Next person maybe had a point. The person after that maybe had a quarter point. And so I put that in a contract, and it's like, if the movie makes $100 million, you get $1 million for playing that crackhead. And people got excited because I said, if I make money, I am guaranteeing you that you'll make money. But producer's net means if I make profit, not if the film grosses. I don't have control over what the distributor in the studio might pay me. But if in fact I profited, I would pay you money. I would say 99% of producers aren't willing to actually pay you in any scenario. I also had a floor, meaning there was a minimum amount of money I had to make before I would pay you profit. The floor was just to get back what we needed to get back. It wasn't anything unreasonable. But most producers are not willing to pay you in any scenario. So again, Amber, if it sounds leery, it is. Don't waste your time. There's people out there who aren't. If you just work the phones, you can just go to Redbox, Netflix, look up the low budget movies, and then find the phone numbers. You can just call people and pitch them and say, I want to do a rewrite on those low budget companies. They'll probably say yes. You just got to work the phones and call. Okay, so I went off on a tangent, and so did we have someone else that wanted to do a letter, or do I need to jump into who was here from ADS? AJ. I could.
I did have one last thing.
Oh yes, definitely.
The job that I'm applying to right here, they said that I don't need any prior experience with story editing for games. So I figured, oh, okay then. So what do I do if they say that?
When I say back up with evidence, so I said back up your claim with evidence that you would be, first of all, if you claim that you can do a certain thing, back that up with proof that you've already done it. And in regards specifically to what would make them believe you could be a story editor for games, provide evidence of something you've done in the past that would suggest you would be a great story editor for games.
Mm.
And so basically, I mean, if you've had experience, proofreading, whether you say it's from your classmates, it was on a project, just wherever you can prove it, say what you did, how you got it, even if you have a testimonial, a link, then that's evidence. And they're just going to burn through that in a matter of seconds. So go check. Great. Sounds like she can do this. Just in general, you just never want to send a letter that says, I'm great, I'm wonderful, I believe I'm a perfect match. Worthless. Everybody says that. The letter should be 100% evidence, not belief.
Gotcha. Well, I have my evidence in my writing portfolio right here, which is where all my writing samples are as per request. But should I put this in this evidence right here as well? Because I can link my Twine games on here, but would that be too much or something?
Your writing portfolio will not even be looked at unless you have pre-qualified yourself as someone who is proven they would be a great story editor in your paragraphs. They're not even going to look at your portfolio. You have to pre-qualify it in the letter.
Gotcha.
So the letter is a way to determine if you should look at the resume, or the resume is a way if you should determine if they should look at the portfolio. The portfolio is a way to determine if they should put you in the to be considered for an interview pile. And then after that, they're going to go through the to be considered pile and actually pick some people to do an interview. So if we go back to the creative writing portfolio class, we did the personal branding video, which is actually the first minute of a real live interview when they say, so tell me about yourself, Janae. And you go, oh, I'm blah, 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 and I've done this with this proof. You can snake the competition if you have a video on your site and you post a link in your letter, and someone happens to go to your site and they see that video. As soon as they land on your page, you've snuck in and gotten the first minute of an interview before they've even decided if they're interviewing people. That's another little trick to twist the odds in your favor.
Okay.
They'll watch that video and they'll go, oh wow, Janae is amazing. Just call her in. when I was an actor, if it's not like a really big project and you're doing commercials, like the director and producer actually doesn't come to the audition. It's a casting director, and the casting director videotapes your audition. But if you crush it in your audition, when the director and the producer, when they're watching the tapes, they're tired. If you crush it, they just stop the tape and say, that's the person. Just call Janae. That's the person. There's no need to look at anybody else.
Gotcha.
Hello, Elise. Thank you for joining us. If it makes you think twice, it's probably right for you to avoid. Oh, she's talking. Yes. Avoid them. They sound sketchy. You do not have to put your picture on your cover letter. Some people are paranoid. Maybe, they hate this kind of person. They hate people in green shirts. I've gone through that myself where I was worried and maybe don't like my name, maybe don't like the way I look. But ultimately, you want a job that's your job. You want to be on a job that wants you. And what people want, sometimes they want the best in the world. Sometimes they want a beginner. Sometimes they want somebody who likes to go salsa dancing. Sometimes they want somebody who likes to smoke crack after work. You don't really know what they really want. That's the definition of what I call a good fit is. There is no universal answer to a good fit. Ultimately, you want the job that wants you for who you are, what you look like, what you talk like, what you've done, what you could do. Want a job that wants you, a job that ultimately wants you. It's going to be a job that lasts with relationships for a lifetime. And so if you want to put your picture on there, go right ahead, because right from the beginning, that you're saying, here I am. Do you want me? This is me. Any other questions? AJ, did you want us to look at this is what week 2 now, your director's treatment?
That's right. Sure, yeah.
Okay. So thank you, Janae. Thank you, for being the first volunteer. And now I'm going to invite AJ to pull up his director's treatment for ADS. Let me see if I clicked on
You're
the right.
welcome.
Okay. Let's, because it's obviously too small for me. Let's go like full screen. I love this artwork. An excerpt from, I've done a lot of, in the past, I've done work and projects with homeless. I love this shot. Excerpt from Unsheltered, written, if you were like pitching to get money, I'd probably already have my checkbook out just on the cover. Imagery is powerful. Let's go to the next slide. I'm not going to read this one word for word. I'm just going to kind of peek at it. Logline. In a sheltered Series 5, diverse homeless youth survive city slumbers and navigate the streets till they're seen. Is it Sunny or Sunni?
Sunny.
I live in an Asian household, so I.
No, her real name is Sunni.
Oh, okay.
Sunny, yeah, aka Sunny. Yeah.
My wife's Japanese. I'm 1/8 Indian from India. The series protagonist counters an attempted sexual assault. Didn't we read your script last week?
We did.
Yeah,
we sure
I said,
did.
Okay, here comes another man writing a victim story, but it was really about empowerment, vision. Oh my God, what is IMSRV?
It's the name of the production company I'm trying to start. It's called Immersive.
Okay.
That's backwards. But that should be IMRSV.
I mean, it looked like something on the side of like a Soviet cosmonaut capsule. POV affords
I
us
kind
something.
of use the cosmonaut font too in the
Oh, okay.
icon.
Yeah, that's probably what made me think of that. Visual poetry. Actually, I do understand what visual poetry means. That's basically like music video. All right, go to the next slide.
Sure. Where's my arrow? There we go. Whoops. There we go.
Did you just skip a slide, or is this supposed to be the next one?
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Smartphone, iPhone 6S Plus. The iPhone, so if you handed this in, you would have basically got a stock response. So most people should just go ahead and shoot on a smartphone. The iPhone 6S Plus is just one generation. Actually, you know what? I think I've never been on a 6S Plus. I know what a 7 and above, the electronic and optical stabilization is pretty freaking good. On the 6 series, I don't think any of the 6 series, the stabilization is that good. So even though if you're shooting on a smartphone, try not to, if you can get it on a tripod doesn't even have to be a real tripod. You can just sit it on top of a book, a ladder, lean against the wall, hold your arm still. Try to stay away from moving with your phone. And if you don't have a tripod, even like tilting up and down or panning left and right, because it's going to be shaky. So just try as best as you can to stay away from handheld. If you do handheld, don't move. Just don't move. If you're saying, well, in this scene, it's supposed to look like it's confusion, I can guarantee you, even trying not to move, it's still going to be shaky, and you're going to have just the amount of shake that you visualize. Visual style. Okay, now here we go. We'll work primarily handheld, tripod, first person POVs, third person. Just don't move your handheld. If you have tripod, you can move. You have the stabilizer, you can move. Slow panning, slow medium panning. You can do it on a tripod. Don't go for it handheld. Trust me.
Got it.
For mise en scène, contrast of lights and darkness. Do you know how to edit?
A little bit, but only in iMovie.
So you said light and darkness. If you want it dark, shoot it a little brighter than you want the final product, and then darken it in post. The way video, it's a lot better now, but the way video kind of works, there's a medium amount of light that you need to activate the pixels. And if you don't actually have the light, it'll just start turning to video noise. So you always want to slightly overlay, not a lot. You always want it just a little brighter than you need it, and then you stop it down in post. And when you stop it down in post, you're going to end up having a much cleaner image than trying to get the dark parts dark. Editing style, iMovie, tempo centric. When you say tempo centric, does that mean you're cutting the music, or you're just trying to create a rhythm to your
rhythm
edit?
Yeah, okay. I was kind of stuck between like long cuts and then quick cuts. So I realized that based on the text itself and the amount of dialogue, it'll drive me instead of me driving it.
So story structure is mathematical.
Right.
So like if we went back to the writing classes and we put everything on a number line where we looked at like all the different turning points, the climax and resolution, you would see a pattern. And so if your scene or your movie is structured correctly, when you look at the shots or the scenes, it will be an actual like pattern that you can see on the timeline. You'll see the visual representation of the structure, and that'll tell you if something is wrong when the shots kind of don't make sense. There's no logical pattern. And so if you're trying to do tempo centric, you'll definitely see if you wanted all the same tempo, or if you want to speed up and slow down, you'll definitely see that visually on your timeline while you're editing. Approximate length. What is that? You said pages 5 to 6. What?
Yeah, of the slides. Actually, you were just talking about it. When we get to the shot list, I started noticing those tempos and what I already want to start changing.
Okay, so you
But
don't mean you're going to shoot 5 to 6 pages of.
oh no, good
Oh,
grief, no. Yeah, it's
uh,
just page 5 or slide 5 and 6. I really should.
this is actually a problem I just had on my Instagram page today. One of my Instagram pages. So when you do like this slow motion on the iPhone, it only kind of works in the iPhone. When you take that out of your Mac world and you upload it, it's not in slow motion. But since you're going to edit, you might actually have to redo the slow motion because you're in iMovie. This probably won't be a problem, and then once you export from iMovie, you'll retain the slow motion. But if you tried to shoot slow motion and then upload that clip someplace else without running it through your editing program first, it would strip out the slow motion, and you just basically have a bunch of nonsense. Which is, I had to delete my post this morning because I was using. Never use automated stuff. It just doesn't work.
Good
YouTube
advice.
set sound effects and music for shots. I've never tried. Were you going to try to add the sound effects after you go to YouTube?
Yeah, I was gonna like pull out sirens and then underlay them, kind of split the audio from the actual clip and replace it with the YouTube
I've never
sirens.
I've never used the effects in YouTube, but I know they've grown. If you're familiar with that, that's definitely more than fine for this assignment. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Oops, sorry. There we go.
Sample call sheet, scene breakdown, cast names. So you've shot before, right? It's like a real
No,
call sheet.
I I found one for 007, and I just adapted it to what I needed.
I got to move something on my screen. People have asked me for a call sheet. I wouldn't give them something this official. Oh God. Okay, you've got 3 locations, but this is really one location: A,
Right.
B, and C.
Yeah.
You have A, B, and C because you were using you had like the editing features on every time you did a new draft.
No, I just use these. It's the same scene, but I split it into acts in my mind. So I just use it to kind of track that I'm in the first act of the scene, the second act of the scene, third act of the scene.
That's fine. Cast. So you just Sarah, Michelle. You haven't cast a frat boy yet.
Not yet.
Agenda, meet and greet, dinner, rehearsal, film. So I'm glad you put the dinner on there. I don't know if I mentioned it in this class last week, but what if it doesn't matter if it's Black Panther or no budget film? What is the single most important element when you're producing a project?
Food.
The food, that's right. And not sandwiches, hot food. Even if you're not paying people, you must have hot food. If you've got some kick ass hot food, you are not going to have problems from the cast and crew. You'd have stuff catered pretty. Usually, when you cater, it has to be at least like 10 people, but even if you ordered for 10 people, it'll be like enough for 30. If you get that hot food there when you first start, you'll just have big piles of it on the little candle heaters all the way to the end of the day. If you got hot food, you're not going to have any problems from your cast and crew. And let them know you have hot food. That's it. Even if it's pizzas, hot food. Requirements: please provide your own costume, makeup chains. Since these are sparse, stage compad. Oh my God. Be careful. Don't make me lose my
Yeah,
job.
yeah, I've got a lot of BFA students, and I'm a master student myself. So we know
Uh,
the basics, but we're not doing anything fancy.
all right. Since we have sparse scripts, make sure you communicate clearly to the actors how you want what they should wear. I mean, if they're real actors, they're going to go really deep into character, and they'll be fine. run a bunch of stuff by you, and they'll be like, no, I don't think Sunny would wear pink. She seemed like she's more of a blue person. But if they're not actors, you're going to have to communicate with them on costume and makeup. And I have a tendency of just blowing it off. I usually make my partner worry about that. But, the actors take it very seriously. You have to take it seriously. Do you have another slide?
I do.
Yeah,
I also
your shot. Go ahead.
I've since updated this section, the requirements on the bottom, and added something about props. I noticed that was also part of the assignment. It's not on here because I haven't copy pasted it and replaced it yet, but I have a prop section down here. And then here's the next slide.
For those of you who've never shot before, you have the call. So a script is really like a blueprint to build a movie, and the call sheet is just taking that further because you're making the movie. It's a construction project, and there's different people. Well, actually, everybody gets this call sheet, and then different people need different things, and whatever they're going to need for the day or for the week, they're going to know that by looking at this call sheet. Oh, wow. You even check the weather. That's good.
Yeah, it's Minnesota. It's always so unpredictable.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, because you said the bridge. Yeah, because Minnesota, many lakes. It's lots of lakes. All right, you can go to the next slide. Was that your shot list?
It sure is.
Oh, have you used like a real program before to schedule your movie? I noticed you use different colors for your strips.
This was something I just picked up in the military that's just easy for my eye to associate the colors with the severity of the situation. I use different colors to track through the tension.
So
I like how it's color coded too.
So people have told me, like on a military that with military experience that also do film, that a big film production is sort of like a military operation. It's very ordered with strategy and chain of command. So if you're actually using a real program to do your schedule, it is color coded, and the different colors represent day, night, or if you're getting fancy, like dusk, dawn, or morning. If you shoot at dusk and dawn, it's more so dusk. That's magic moment, and that doesn't last that long, but it's better lighting. It's sort of magical lighting. So this is good that you did it like this. So I probably mentioned this last week when you're doing your script. No matter what your end vision is for your project, you still want to shoot master scenes. You got to shoot a wide. You got to shoot a medium. You got to shoot a close up of this person. You got to shoot a close up of that person. You got to shoot a medium shot. If you're really good, you got to shoot at least one reverse in case you accidentally cross the line of access. However, make sure you include all of your shots in the coverage. You can still assemble when you edit your project to your vision, but in case your vision doesn't work, that's why you need coverage. Sometimes it just doesn't work. The actors didn't do the line right. You got to the key moment and then it rained. Someone fell off the bridge. You couldn't finish shooting. Always want to get coverage. Let me double check. Eye level, tripod, handheld, following. Don't go handheld. Were you in marching band?
No, I mean I'm a shooter, but I'm not that steady with a phone. So I'll probably put it on the tripod and just pan it up on the same axis.
If you had a stabilizer, I would say really don't go for it. If you got a wheelchair, roller skates, skateboard, you could probably even a car. You could probably get away with following and keep it smooth. In iMovie should have like I don't know what languaging they use, but they should have some sort of stabilizer if you do try and follow. I was going to say, if you're in marching band, you probably know how to do what's called a glide step, which would get rid of some of the shake. If the camera is so light, even if you tied a weight to it, that would get rid of some of the shake. If you weren't shooting on your phone and you were like on a DSLR, I would tell you to use the wide lens. The bigger the lens, the less the camera shake. And so even on your iPhone, don't try and zoom in. Definitely keep it wide. That'll doesn't reduce the shake, but it makes it less visible on camera. If you got a tripod, you can also just leave the tripod connected to your camera, and that weight will get rid of some of the shake if you're moving. Instead of handheld following, I would just follow them with a pan on the tripod, keep it smooth.
Yeah, I think I'll eliminate as many handhelds as I can using that same trick. That's a good idea.
People have, even if it's a phone, like I said, people have different phones, and some of the phones have pretty amazing stabilization built in, and so it can be a little confusing. You're like, oh yeah, just grab the phone and we're going to run down the street. And you're like, well, why doesn't mine look like that? Handheld rushing. I wouldn't risk it. If you did, I would shoot one safe and then one, I call them a special. Every time I shoot, I'll plan something special, Dutch angle, low angle, dolly shot, crane, whatever. I'll plan something in each scene. I'll call it a special. Then I'll do something wild after I get my coverage that's on the master scene and on the shot list. I'll look at the situation organically and come up with something that wasn't on the list if we have time, because that just might be the magic shot that actually gets used.
Backups.
Any more pages?
Yep, a couple more. This was all Excel, so this is just a continuation of the color coding as we approach the climax.
And when you are shooting, shoot tons and tons and tons of insert shots on set. That could be a close-up of somebody's hand, somebody's foot, close-up on the bridge, just a shot over somebody's shoulder, just anything on set that you can, or near the set that you can cut away to when you're going from shot to shot so you don't have any jump cuts. A good cameraman is always rolling and picking up extra shots that are not part of the coverage so that the editor has more stuff to work with in terms of cutaways and inserts. All right, next page.
Oh,
Wait, before we do that, go back one. Like Amber and I noticed a weird description at the last one here on the page. Hands Seconda grabs the hat and drags it towards himself. He climbs Sonny's pockets. How does he do that?
What? Where does it say that? What?
Like at the very bottom.
Near the bottom here. So what he's doing, he's on his hands and knees. He's gonna reach into one of her pants pockets, reach into one of her jacket pockets, and then climb his way up her body just to stand up.
Oh.
I kind of understood that, but if you had a crew, then yeah, that might not translate to everybody who reads that. But I understood that. Maybe I'm just a weirdo.
That makes both of us then. And then I guess this is the last thing about the shot list is the approximate length we were talking about earlier. I estimated how long these shots should take. The pattern I've been noticing is that I speed up to slow down, which is the tempo I want to look at altering. So I start off with some steady rhythm, and then I speed up a little bit to slow down. Then I speed up again to slow down. So I want to look back and see if I can just keep it ramping up the entire time to the climax and then slow down. I can alter that with these POVs because they have a lot of action. So, I mean, I can raise the sense of urgency in these big chunks, like this 8-second chunk. And I have too much to do and not enough time to look at all the things, which could simulate a faster tempo. So I'll look at that first, but then if not, then I'm going to break some of these up or get rid of some of the things or just change the times.
So normally when I'm doing dual format, which is like for a commercial or promo, I do have every shot time because we're talking about like a 30-second or 1 minute work. Normally when I'm doing narrative, I'm not in a short format, so I don't time the shots. But that's excellent. So for a 1 minute work, yeah, that is smart to time your shots. If you were doing a feature length script and you were shooting it as a movie, and when you broke it down and did the schedule, you'd actually have the page count next to the schedule. But this is your shot list. This is fine because if you're in dual column, that's exactly what I would have had you do right in your script, as a matter of fact.
Right. Yeah. I was wondering if a director and a DP just sit there with different sheets of paper that say the same things but look completely different. One's holding the script and the other's holding the shot list, kind of thing.
Sometimes I don't give the well, actually, I don't give the actors my shooting script. Usually, I'll actually just give the actors a clean script, and then I'll have a script like you usually see published in a book, which is really the director's script, and then it'll just be like 500 pages long with every angle and shot that I want to do that I have as a reference, that so I don't miss anything when I'm going through the scene. That's also how I make my shot list when I'm breaking down the script. I'm going, okay, I'm gonna do what I really want is wide here. I'm close here. I'm gonna do a dolly shot, and then I go through the script, pull that out, and make my shot list.
Gotcha. Go back and forth, and then I'll fill this out.
Okay, yeah, gotta add the references. We have to keep it academic. Make the accrediting body happy. We had a library assignment. All right, great job. This looks good. You're all set. And you said you did the digital cinematography program here?
No, I didn't do any of that stuff. I did
Okay.
an acting MFA.
They have an acting MFA?
Not here at Full Sail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did it out in Seattle.
Oh, in Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay,
At the
cool.
University of Washington, yeah.
All right, so excellent. Thank you, Janae. Thank you, AJ. Does anybody have any questions before I let you go? Okay. So thank you, and I'll see all of you again next week. Have a great week.